guys, this is Jenni Calma with Paper Cardinal, and I'm going to share a scrapbook layout that I did for Tonic Studios. Real quick, I'm going to go through some of the products I'm going to use. I actually had a different project for this post, but I really like the way this one turned out, and I wasn't quite ready to let go of Christmas. I didn't do a December daily this year, so this was sort of a nice way to finish up the Christmas season. This is the photograph I'm going to use. It's of my kids and my nieces. And I thought it would be fun with this paper here that is from Pinkfresh Studio. It's a holiday paper, but it's nice. It's like a navy and pink and red and green. And I liked it because I had wanted to use these this hexagon like layering die set from Tonic, and I thought I might use some of the glitter papers or other decorative papers with the hexagons and layer them on top of the ones that were there sort of underneath my photo. And I've got these two. It's the this satin mirror finish and then the red glitter cardstock, and I've also got the watercolor cardstock. And on the watercolor cardstock, I plan to use this either watercolor or this new expanding mousse, and in this worn linen color, which is kind of a pearlescent color. And then I'm going to use this title, I believe, this Merry Christmas one with the holly on for the title of the page. And I thought I might use this drop and die set that's sort of layered, kind of filigree arching twirls is the name of the die underneath my photo. And these are a couple other pieces of paper that I thought I might use some of these cut aparts and layer with, or something else. So that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to do, and I am going to go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm probably not going to be able to talk through all of this, but what I had planned to do is to go ahead and start with the cutting everything up, all the hexagons up, and kind of starting to figure out how I'm going to do this. I speed this up a good bit because this is a pretty long video. So also, actually, for Christmas, my husband got me these really cool lights for my studio, and I'm really excited about them. I think they looked great until the batteries died about halfway through. Because I hadn't charged the batteries fully, I just opened it and started to record. So anyway, just bear with me, and I'm going to get the lighting in here worked out, I promise. So I'm using my big tangerine die cut machine, and I'm going to layer these hexagons, and I used one size a little bigger than I think I'm going to use, but I go ahead and use that one too. And I use it on the this satin mirrored card that's red. I think it's called Opera Red. It is beautiful. I mean, it's such a pretty red color, but it's also, and it's got shine to it, but it's the satin color. It's really classy looking to me. So I just cut each of those pieces of the 8.5 by 11 in half. So I'm going to use as much as I can of each of the papers with the glitter cardstock and that mirror finish to cut out as many of the hexagons as I can get. I think I kind of get 8 out of each one. And then I'm going to do the same thing with, instead of the watercolor cardstock, I actually just used a heavy cardstock. It's a Nina Solar, well, it's Nina, but I don't think it's maybe like the 80 pound. And I used that with the expanding mousse. So I'm just kind of laying this out to see what I think it might look like. And I think it looks pretty good. This was from Christmas Eve, and we had Christmas crackers, and everybody's wearing their crowns. And all the kids, I don't know if it just ended up that way, but they all had red crowns, so I thought it was kind of cute. And so this is the watercolor cardstock, which I don't use. I just use regular card there. And I go ahead and lay out this. I'm going to use my glass media mat, which I love, but I'm kind of struggling a little bit with the glare there on the left. Sorry about that. And so I'm going to have to, I'm still trying to get all this lighting stuff right. So when I get that right, hopefully maybe I can cut out some of that glare. So I thought I might paint the watercolor cardstock first and then do that dye, but you'll see what I do later after that. So I'm going to lay a layer using my palette knife of this expanding mousse pretty thick over the this plain cardstock. And what I've realized with doing this expanding mousse a good bit is that, you know, obviously you can leave it as it is and it sort of stays a sort of pearlescent color like regular embellishment mousse, or you can heat it up. And I wanted to heat it up because I thought the texture would be fun. It would kind of be like snowy. And so I lay it on pretty thick, and then I start to dry it with my heat gun. And one of the things that I've learned is that it needs to be pretty thick to bubble up and do a lot of the texture and to stay that way. I did it like the first couple times I tried different things, and I did it too smooth, and then when I heated it up it kind of cracked and peeled off the paper. So it needs to be a fairly thick layer. And I mean, there's a pile of it, so it's not like I used a lot of it, but you can see it now starting to bubble up. And the other thing that I've learned about it, that's the texture, which I think is amazing. The other thing I've learned about it is that it really needs to dry for a good bit. Even though I did dry it with my heat tool, it does need a good bit of time to dry. So I set that aside. Oh, actually, I do set that aside to dry, and then come back and I will cut it out of the, I'll cut it out with the hexagon dies in a minute. Okay, I'm going to get ready to, okay, I do cut those out now. I was thinking I waited a little while longer, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I actually cut them off screen, and it was not dry enough, and it kind of made a big old mess of my plates and of the dies. So I had to clean all that up, and I waited for a while before I cut out the rest of them. So it does need dry time, even though you heat it up to make the mousse expand. Okay, now I'm going to do some little watercoloring on these pieces of that little twig sort of branch die, and I'm just using some different colors of distress inks on my mixed media mat, and I'm going to glass media mat, sorry. I'm just going to just messily paint those real quick and just take off some of the colors from the from that main piece of paper. I like that dark sort of piney, dark pine needle color. I think that's what it's called. And then I'm going to set those aside to dry and start to figure out what this layout is going to look like. When this starts to come together, I'm going to go ahead and let you listen to some music because it's pretty self-explanatory. One thing I will say is that this is my new favorite tool, is this tiny little small guillotine trimmer that's Tim Holtz from Tonic. It is so handy. It is the perfect size. It cuts so beautifully, and I am really excited about it. Okay, so you can see here I started to lay out where I thought everything would go, and I'm going to layer some of the hexagons on top of each other. I'm going to use the Deluxe Adhesive by Nuvo to adhere down all of my hexagons, which is great for those ones with the expanding mousse because it turns out to be a pretty thick, piece. And it's great because it gives you some wiggle room, especially for something like this where I'm trying to kind of line up those pieces. So I'm going to place all of those in the place I think they're going to go, and start to layer some pieces under my photo to kind of create a background. And I will come back towards the end of the video and talk a little bit more. Sorry for my head getting in the way there. Alrighty, you can see where I ended up. I did put that piece of sort of transparency paper behind the photos and all the little die cuts and pieces of cut apart paper, just to kind of tone down a little bit of that red. But I love that, love the pieces of it peeking out. And I love the way the title came out. It's that Merry Christmas die cut with the holly, and I layered it with to sort of give it a little bit of a shadow with a dark navy, and then that watercolor paper from Craft Perfect, and I misted it with some gold color shine, which I heard a nasty rumor that it is going to be discontinued, so hang on to it if you have it. And then I just wrote a little bit of journaling here, and that is pretty much the way it finished up. I added lots of gold crystal drops there at the end on just about everything, and I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. Thanks so much for watching and stopping by. I really appreciate everyone's support and comments, and hopefully I'll be back with more videos that include better lighting, or the correct lighting, once I get it figured out. And there will be a complete list of supplies at the end of the video, and if you have any comments or suggestions, I would love to hear from you all. Thanks so much. Hope you have had a happy holiday, and a great new year. Bye.